Welcome, everybody.
We're back with We Both Love Soup.
Couple of Gen X girls just navigating life. Glad you could join us here today. Let's see.
Another rainy afternoon.
Another rainy Southern California.
I just spent 5 days in the rain in Florida, and now I'm back, and it's rainy here.
How was Spirit Airlines? Was it Spirit you were on?
No, Southwest.
Oh, Southwest. For some reason, I thought you decided to take...
Oh, God, no. I'm never flying that again. Remember that? I had a... Well, that could be a whole nother episode, is how they screwed me over.
Recently, though, is it Allegiant actually got some praise, and people were not bagging on the Allegiant.
My sister loves Allegiant. She loves everything about it, flies them, because they have really good, I guess, direct flights in the Midwest. They don't really do much for us out here.
When Miranda was in college in Oregon, it was one of the only airlines. It was Alaska and Allegiant that were direct from down here in Southern California up to Eugene, Oregon. Otherwise, I would have to fly into Portland and then rent a car.
Right.
Yada, yada.
They do a lot of small airlines or small airports, and I think that's the advantage to them.
It's another one of those, you better not have a lot of luggage because you'll pay for it.
Right.
And their reliability, at least, used to be worse. But I guess people are saying now with other airlines having that trouble, it's not so bad.
My friend actually flies for them, is the pilot captain for Allegiant, so... But shout out to her.
So yeah, long trip only to have the same kind of weather. But we so need this moisture. I know national news, it makes us laugh too, because here in Southern California, there's stuff going on, but they're very regional pockets. And weather in California is also extremely regional. Like Temecula, where we're at, could be very, very different than 4 towns over, which is only 20 miles away.
Or over on the coast. They get completely different weather than we do. They could be
73 degrees. We could be 103 degrees.
Right.
So really different weather. So when the national news is talking about, California is sliding into the ocean, oh my gosh, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. And then my aunt and my family gets all panicked and calls me. I'm like, oh, no, we had some drizzles today. Enabled me to watch and binge watch some things without feeling guilty about it. So
right. And then we do look at even just down in San Diego, which is an hour from us, and there are literally cars underwater. It's crazy, the differences.
Road washed out along the coast, completely just fell right into the ocean. So
that happens every year.
Yeah. But anyway, we're fine where we're at, just in absorbing the rain. The one consequence that we're going to get, which is actually a wonderful consequence, is something called a Superbloom out here.
Superblooms. They love it out here.
Artists come from all over. We've had recently, in the last couple of years, we've had a couple of Superblooms because of the rainfall. And it's where all the wildflowers, particularly poppies and what's the purple one? Is it like a lantana or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
And they just, it looks...
Indian paintbrush, all of those local ones are...
absolutely fake, and people will drive, even along our highways, people will be causing accidents pulling over to look at the beautiful flowers, posing for their engagement pictures and some Insta stuff. But we're due to have a really good Superbloom.
Yeah, a police officer was actually killed.
Oh, that was so sad.
That was so sad around here. It was up north of us, but he was killed. People... not paying attention, looking at the Superbloom, driving through an area, and
or he had pulled over an individual to help with a tire or something, and that was
So that's sorry, but bring up that sad thing, but move off the road and be careful during the Superbloom is my point. So,
but weather-wise, actually, I don't mind the gloomy rain. We're supposed to on Friday. Be back up into the 70s and maybe partly sunny. So
I hate this kind of weather because it does a number on my joints, and that's an episode for another day.
We got a lot of future episodes. But the other fun thing is tonight, Elle and I and one of our producers are heading out for a special dinner. Here in San Diego, about a year ago, a restaurant opened up, and it is the first Michelin star Mexican restaurant.
Yes.
And it's right on the coast. It's going to be about a 40-minute drive for us in traffic. But we booked it 90 days ago, I think we had to do. And we're going to go tonight. It's a pre-fee menu, so we don't get to order off a menu. They basically establish. So myself and our producer, Zach, are doing the land and sea. But
the only bummer of that is that I have to do, even though I am a pescatarian, do eat seafood and love seafood and whatever, I had to order the vegetarian menu menu because it's either the vegetarian or the land and sea. But I'm hoping these guys will let me snibble off of their
absolutely
sea portion of their land and sea.
So yeah, the name of the one we're going to is called Valle, Valle. So
and we'll let you know.
Let you know how it is. We've decided this year, as part of our expanding our horizons, we were going to try some of these culinary delights. And then Friday, this is kind of a banner week for us. We are going to try out a brand new hot springs spa that opened up a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so it's going to be an expensive week.
It's expensive week, yes, yes indeed. But we haven't been to the spa since December, right? We used to go monthly, even just for basic services. And we decided now to up the ante, but go every other month. Right. So trying to do this little...
December was the last time we went.
Yeah, more guilt-free with that, but it is massive.
I would say guilt-reduced. Perhaps not guilt-free.
Right. Guilt-reduced. Guilt-reduced. Right. I don't know. I've coming off the last couple of months of work that I've had. I'm like, this has got to be guilt-free.
Yes. For you, maybe. My work's been slow, so it's a little more guilty for me.
I know one of the things, too, is, as I'm reading the news and all that came up this week that just aggravated the bejesus out of me, was Kelly Osbourne of Ozzy Osbourne, Sharon Osbourne fame, came out with what I thought were just the worst comments about the weight loss drugs, the semaglutides, the different peptide drugs, Ozempic, etc. And it's like, this is the reason there's such divide amongst people about it. She said everything that is what people cite. She said, well, exercising is boring. Why would I exercise when I'm wealthy enough to take a medication that does the work for me? That sentence right there.
Oh, so they were for it.
Oh my gosh, she is on it and she's lost a ton
I was thinking,
weight.
why would they be against it? Maybe
she is not. Well, her mom is against it because she tried it and it didn't work well for her and she had a lot of symptoms. So she came slashing out. But let's see here if I have her exact quote here somewhere. It's very, very nasty.
Yeah. The problem is too many people with no information giving information. And I guess you could accuse us of that, but we do have somebody that has tried it and experienced it and knows a lot about it because she researched it. But and
just that disparaging comment. So here's exactly what she said. She criticized it as amazing and said those who were criticizing it are just pissed off they couldn't bear the cost of getting the medication.
Well, there is
people hate on it because they want to do it, she added. And people who hate on it the most are the people who secretly wished they had it but can't afford it. So it's like, thank you, Kelly, for once again adding more fire to what is already a very polarizing topic.
Right.
And personally, as someone who it made a difference
Huge
to
difference.
me and my health, that's the kind of stuff that my mom feeds off of, and then she'll be spitting it back at me. So I was really, really disappointed. And quite honestly, Kelly, I know in her later years or earlier years, she was probably BMI overweight, but certainly when she started on this, she had already lost quite a bit. Probably not even a good candidate.
Yeah, not
for
a great
it.
candidate for
this
it.
Unless she has lose 10 pounds
unless she has diabetes in her history, and that is a good reason to go on it. Or if you have a lot of weight to lose, because that can cause other health issues. So there's so much back and forth on this, and I just wish people would research and know the facts before they diss or whatever.
But hers rose to the top of the news feed.
Of course,
I think it was one of the
famous.
things right on Apple News. So that's what people are seeing. They're not seeing the real truth. And it's a bummer. So that bummed me out.
Yep. All right. Well, so today's topic is fresh in my mind because I just went back to Florida to see my mother, her 94th birthday. And now my mom, 3 years ago, was living on her own, riding her bike every day. Her trike, but still riding a bike every day.
So we weren't sending her out on the...
Yes, exactly. And 2 years ago, we determined she needed to not be living on her own. We put her into independent living. And then a year ago, independent living, she started doing what they call sundowning, which is she's wandering around at night. And she ended up in a gas station down the road. And
that was so scary.
And so now we have her we've switched her to a few different places. And now we have her in this lovely facility that's kind of a family run house that has like 10 rooms and they take care of people. And it's completely nursing home assisted living. They have in-home nurse, or I think she comes and goes, but she's there fairly often. And it's a lovely place. But our topic today, is aging parents. And it's a hard one. And almost everyone I know is dealing with this in some shape or form. In our case, I'm fortunate. I'm one of, there's 5 of us left. And my brother and his wife are taking very good care, visiting my mom. And we were able to get her into a nice facility, and she has the money to afford that. I know people that have parents that refuse to leave their home they're in. I have one friend whose mother is fading mentally, her father's fading physically, and they will not leave the farmhouse that they grew up in. And they have to have, nurses that come every day, and I think they might live there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an expense.
Right,
Fortunately,
right.
they can bear it.
And the thing is, I know if you talk to your parents when they still have their faculties, nobody wants to be a burden as they age. And I think what people forget as they do age is that is a burden to not move out of the house when you should, and to not have these things set up ahead of time, or prepare for these things, or at least have the money to. And not everybody has that luxury to have the money, but
have the conversations, have the tough conversations.
Right.
When a couple of years ago, your mom was completely had her faculties, and you could, even being 90, which is absolutely amazing.
Right.
And it happened so quickly.
Oh, it happens faster than you would think. And there's so many other things that can take people down, strokes and heart attacks and cancers and things like that. And I've always said, as sucky as cancer is, and we've been hit in my family quite a bit by cancer, at least it gives you some time to process and some time to go over these details and that sort of thing. Whereas this dementia, Alzheimer's stuff, I almost swore, can really hit without warning. It can really take down somebody quickly, as can a stroke, where somebody is
My dad had a stroke right during COVID. Of course, he was already, diabetic and such. And while it wasn't a massive stroke, just the degradation coming from that, he is not the same person he was 4 years ago.
Right.
He's just totally not. And it happened very quickly right after that. And it's just nothing's getting better there.
And we're dealing with, both Dylan and I her father lives on the other side of the country. Her mother lives on the northwest part of the country.
They couldn't be farther apart.
Right. And my mother lives in Florida, and we're out here. So I'm lucky I have a sibling that lives nearby. But, in Dylan's case, you don't have a sibling that lives
The sibling lives in Northern California, and the only time he's gone to visit my dad was when I dragged him along with me, and my mom will come to him. He hasn't come to visit her, I think, in 5 or 6 years. It's just that's not his way. He's not a traveler in that regard. So
and your mom's still in good health, as are my in-laws. They're still in great health, and
but that could turn on a dime.
Exactly.
Your mother-in-law having the slip and falls she had, those could have gone way worse than they did.
And just being aware that these things can lead to other things, and that's the other. It's difficult, and having these conversations. Where's the gold buried? That's the other thing. It's like what we realized when we were all together is my mom had diaries. I would send her a calendar every year for Christmas, and she would write in them like a diary, every day writing something, what she did, what she didn't do. And I saw some of them years ago, and they were kind of an amazing history of my mom. And they were at her place, the last place she lived independently. They were there, and somehow they got lost, and they're all gone.
Lost that.
And we lost that. And that's the other thing is where my mother's wedding band is gone. We don't know. We're looking back, and we aren't seeing her wearing it for many years. Like the last time when we sold the house that I grew up in, which was many, many years ago, that was probably the last time that we saw this ring. So I have no idea, but pay attention to these things. And it wasn't worth it. It's just a wide gold band. It wasn't like
but you would love to have that around the chain.
I would have liked to have had it. And, so you it's uncomfortable to have these conversations with your loved ones when they're still kind of all there because nobody
You almost feel like, hey, you're gold digging. Like,
yes,
you need to know
exactly.
But it's so little of that is about the money, other than what are the funds and what do we have to augment to make their life comfortable. My mom is an Uber planner, and about 12, she's probably going on 15 years ago, I remember she came to me one day. This was back when she was 60, early 60s.
Oh, wow.
So very, very spry. And she hands me this binder when she came to visit. And I'm like, what's this? And she goes, well, you need to review this. This is everything you need to have and know about when I pass away or we both pass away. And I'm like, Mom, what a morbid thing. And, kind of laughed about it. But in this binder, which she put together with their accountant and lawyers, I mean, it's over the top. This binder is seriously over the top. She's prepaid for all of her funeral arrangements. She has chosen the Psalms to be read, the songs, the food she wants there. It's got all the financial account numbers, name of the accountant and the firm, to get all that access, any passwords to things. You name it, it's in the binder, and it's got all the codicils and the documents for medical, because they do a lot of traveling. And I have the binder, I've had the binder, and she updates it.
And I think that is genius, and I'm so jealous of that. Somewhere there is a binder, and that was also lost, is the binder that my mom had, at least for the funeral, her psalms that she wanted to be read, the music she wanted at Mass, that kind of thing. That's gone. We lost that somewhere too. So
my mom even includes, every time she goes on a cruise or a trip, once a year, she goes to the portrait thing, and they have a portrait taken. She calls it her funeral portrait. So every year I get an updated, this is the portrait you would use for the...
Which is also kind of genius when you think about it. And you may think about this as being super morbid, but my family and I, my in-laws and I, and my husband and I were going on a cruise, and we were flying. And
you were all together.
We were all together, including his sister. And I realized if our plane goes down in a fiery crash, somebody has to get to my house, take care of my cats. I mean, my friend stays at the house to take care of the cats, but still, someone has to know where the bodies are buried and all of that. And we do have a trust, and we've got that all set up, even though we don't have kids. But so it should be easy. And when my brother was out visiting recently, working on renovated my shower, I showed him where that binder was and where our trust information, who our trust attorney is, and here's our password list and all of that, because it will likely be him if we were to die in a fiery crash. It would likely be him because he has the closest in proximity to our house, being in New Mexico. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, these conversations that are awkward to have and you don't want to have, but you should have. And yeah, it's...
And the nuances to it, right? Everyone assumes it's about the money, but it's about money. It's about wishes. You have a more complicated web because there's more of you.
There's a lot of us.
To do. So you have different people with different opinions, like even where your mom was going to go and what level of care.
Right.
You went with, maybe perhaps she would come here to Southern California.
I looked into it. Yeah.
And now in my case, when that issue comes up, I have complete control, so to speak, because I'm not fighting with a sibling who's going to
fight you on it.
Who's going to fight me. I mean, my dad is one of those who will not, no matter what condition he gets, leave the house he's in. Fortunately, his second wife is younger than him, and she is taking the brunt of caring for him, which is, I'm very grateful that she is, because he cannot live on his own at this juncture.
Right. And that's, the other thing you think about is, like I said, one spouse failing mentally, the other spouse failing physically. If one of them goes before the other one, then what do you do? I mean, there's so many scenarios. And sometimes if the one that's going mentally can forget that they have the other partner and become physically abusive. That happened to my sister-in-law's family. And, there's just so many.
One of my mom's friends, he attacked her, and it was so sad, and she didn't want to put him in a home, but she had to for her own safety. Right.
And there's so many elements to this. We have another friend whose father will not leave the house. He's definitely Alzheimer's, dementia, whichever, I don't know the difference. And he's very paranoid. So every time she comes over, it's, where did you move that? Or what did you do? Somebody stole that.
Yeah.
And, you know, she knows very well that he probably moved it, or it's been gone for years and things like that. And they can get violent and belligerent with you. And how do you deal with these things? And, you know, I know there are organizations that help people. We have never used them or anything, but like, boy, it's just, there's so much. And the thing is, we are not alone. I mean, everyone we know that is this approximately our age is dealing with this in some shape. And maybe
the big difference is finances.
Right.
Yes. What their finances are and what the finances are of the individuals around them to support.
Right.
Like, can you imagine having had to care for your mom if she had zero estate and you guys had to supply it all?
Right.
You're capable of doing it, but what if you weren't?
Right.
Well, and then you were stuck with state-run options,
which are not good.
Grisly.
Yeah. And what's interesting is when we first moved her from this independent living place into a assisted living facility, and it was a 3-tiered, and this is the way a lot of these work, where it's first tier, you can still walk around maybe with a walker.
No bathroom assistance.
And no bathroom assistance, but maybe you need help with meds and things like that. Second tier, you need help with, you can walk, but you're not. Anyway, so my mother, we moved her into this facility, and it was, the independent living was about $2,800 a month. This is in Florida, so adjust accordingly for your area. And then when we moved her into the first tier of assisted living, I want to say it was $3,800. And then she was almost immediately moved up to the highest level because she could no longer walk and needed help with the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then it was close to, I don't know, was it $5,500 or
Mom.
It was quite a bit. And what I have, my brother who's in charge of the finances is very analytic, and he did the extrapolated out, okay, if mom lives this long, this is when her money will run out, and yada, yada, yada. And at the rate at that place, she would have run out of money by, I want to say 96, and she is 94 now. So we found another place that is just a house, like I said, that has like 10 rooms. And this place is, I want to say $3,500. And so now at this rate, my mom has a nice, my father's pension. She has, you know, Social Security. A lot of that is paid for. But her investment portfolio will run out, and now it's to like 102, which my mother could very well live to, because my grandmother lived to be 99. I really hope that doesn't happen.
But it's great to not have that be a worry, because can you imagine if money had run out and amongst your siblings you guys had to figure out.
We all had to chip in.
Yeah, and what proportions and
right,
all
especially
that
because not all of my siblings could afford to chip in.
And some are paying for college educations.
Right.
Some have grandbabies in the works. So there's the sandwich. As people live longer and the expectancy is, suddenly you're getting multiple things coming at you at once.
Right. And there's just so much. We are very fortunate that we do have both. My mother have the means, and then we also have the means to back her up. But I mean, that could have cut into our retirement and things like that. So it's nice to have that, that she's got it covered. But if you don't know if your parents have this covered, you should find out, because maybe you do buy the what do they call that, insurance?
Was it? I was going to say extended care, but it's like not. Yeah, my mom had that.
Senior insurance and all of this sort of stuff. I think there's another type of facility wherein when you go in, you give them all your money.
Yep.
Whatever you have left, you give them all your money, and then they have
care
to
for
keep
you till your end of your life.
Right, and you have
my mom's husband's father decided to do that, and I remember when he decided to do that, we were back in Illinois, and he had substantial assets at the time, and we're like, that just seems ridiculous. He's forking over all that money. Like, what if he passes the next day? Well, it turned out to be a great bargain for him, because he lived a very, very long time. He was getting top-notch care, and the beauty of it that wasn't apparent to me at the time, because I was like 20, was that none of his family had to worry about anything. It immediately, from the day he stepped in there, it made the decision of, we don't have to move him anywhere. It's where he wants to be. He's going to get care no matter how long he lives. And boy, did that take a lot of pressure off. Now, a lot of those places, there's a minimum amount of assets that they'll take.
Right.
And
I imagine that minimum amount is fairly high given how long people are living.
Right. Exactly actuarially. Hence the discussions that people like Nikki Haley and stuff are putting forward with that retirement age should now be 70.
Yeah.
Because it was always the understanding that Social Security would cover you for the final 15 years of your life. Well, back in the day, 15 years was 55 was retirement. And I moved to 65, and now they're trying to push it further out.
We've always thought by the time we get there, it's going to be gone. Or
already they pushed our Medicare age.
Yes.
Both of us born 1967, and we now, the Medicare age is 67. It's not 65.
Right.
All of our friends have been 62.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a little not fair, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. But knowledge is power in that regard, right? So like we know that, so it comes into play as you're considering early retirement or what your plans are in the this chapter of your life. How are you going to allocate your money, or what kind of money do you need to live comfortably?
Plan it out and be aware. And if you are a nurse and having a hard time finding a job, which would be almost impossible these days, and maybe your husband is a kind person who likes to cook, or vice versa, or whatever, your family, your friends, whatever, and you need to start something. If you have the means to do so, you should start a house like this place that my mom is in, because there's going to be, with the baby boomers aging up, there's going to become a shortage of senior housing. There already is.
It's similar to what our other friend used for her dad, wasn't it? It was a small house setting, and oh man, that was amazing.
And they're amazing, and they have great meals. The meals are much better because it's a small community of 10 residents, and
doesn't smell like an institution.
It doesn't. It was lovely. It's like really going to someone's home, except she has her own bedroom, and they're all out in the living room watching TV together, and they eat around a table together. And they're getting $3,500 per person, so it's got to pay for the rent of the house or the lease on the mortgage or whatever. And plus, I would imagine it gives the couple running it. I think they try to run it as skeleton crew as they can. They have night people there and day people there and things like that. But I don't think they have a ton of people running the place. And it did seem very well cared for.
How'd your brother find it?
My sister-in-law did. I don't know.
Okay.
She was amazing, both in finding all of the places for my mom, because they were trying to find one closer to them. That was part of what facilitated moving my mom out of her own place. Is it was an hour and a half away from my brother, and he was stressed out about not visiting enough.
And he's older too, dealing with his own medical.
And my brother, the same year that they moved my mother into independent living, my brother, who was 65, had a stroke. Or 64 at the time, he had a stroke. So that really put a damper on all of our plans and thoughts and everything else, because then it kind of fell to my sister-in-law, who is the most genuinely kind and loving person. And it couldn't have fallen to a better person, because she really does love my mom like she is one of us. And she's been in the family forever. I believe I was 12 when they got married. So, she's been around a long time with the family. So she's been great taking care of my mom.
But imagine if you didn't have her.
Right. And that's the thing. I'm fortunate.
All these miles away.
We have the money. We have the family close by. My sister flies down from Illinois to visit fairly often. I can only get back there, once a year, maybe twice. But, having family close by, I can't imagine dealing with this if your parents won't move away from their house and don't have family close by. My friend who lives in Northern California is from Pennsylvania. She's the one with her parents will not move out of this their farmhouse, and the dad's falling apart physically, mom's falling apart mentally. She has one sister that lives close by, but it's hard for her. She has to fly back a lot, and it's stressful and not being there.
And she's at an age, right? If I recall, she's about to have college-age student kids.
Yes, she does have two college-age students.
With, your responsibilities in your direct home life, and then you've got the pressures of that.
Right.
And it sandwiches you in a pretty major
and she
way.
teaches yoga, and she has a home studio, but she teaches yoga, and so having clients depend on her. And my sister kind of is in that same boat where my brother was saying, "Oh, you should come down more often." She runs a business out of her home, and you can't just turn off your Etsy account and run away. You lose your clients when you do that. And I know I was gone for 5 days. I had 100 emails when I got back, so it's difficult in this. I know you've been wanting to go out and visit your dad, and
yes,
and it's hard,
especially
as far. I mean, you burn a whole day traveling there, a whole day traveling
back, and then the just forget about the cost between the air. Even with my playing the credit card miles game and all of that, different show. You got to rent the car, and you got to physically go there. You got to take the time off of work, and often the visit doesn't leave you feeling better,
right?
Which is another thing that then as you're flying home, you're riddled with this guilt because it's difficult. You remember them as the people they were, and the visit becomes just kind of sad.
Well, that was my next point is, so, we go back and we're visiting and we're all there for Mom's birthday. The first day I went to visit with my aunt, who also came with us. My aunt is my mother's sister, who is 13 years younger. So she's only 82. She drove all the way from Alabama.
Spring chicken.
She's all there. She's great. Wonderful spending time with her. But my first visit with Mom, we were kind of going over in 2s and 3s. And so my first visit was with my Aunt Duffy. And so we went over to visit, and it was, Mom, here's your sister. Oh, Mom, here's your daughter. Nothing. We got no recognition really at all. I think I talked about key lime pie. Again, I got more. Her eyes lit up more with key lime pie than it did with the mention of my name.
Oh, no.
And then the next day we were all there for her birthday, and we sang songs, and supposedly she said my name. I didn't hear it personally. She seemed a little alert.
Did you guys serve her key lime pie?
No, we bought her a chocolate cake. She likes chocolate too. But that was, again, everyone's there, kind of too much stimulation. And then I went back one more time with my sister, and I walked in, and she called me by my sister's name, not the sister I was with. And she called my sister by my sister-in-law's name. And so that was the last we saw of her, and very disappointing. And when we left, she did this thing where she kind of puts her head to her chest. And
I saw it in some of the pictures.
She used to, she was that way a lot, but she used to do that when she was very upset. She would kind of put her head to her chest and breathe. But I don't know if if she was just getting tired and couldn't hold her head up, or if she was really kind of upset with us. But that's the takeaway I got, was that she was upset with us. And I don't know how much of her is in there. It was very difficult. She tries to talk, but we believe she's had a little bit of a stroke at some point, and so it's very hard to understand her. And it's just so hard, and it makes me not want to visit. And it sounds. I know.
And then you're riddled with guilt. The guilt. I haven't seen my dad for a while, but I make a point of talking to his wife, who then will, at the tail end of the conversation, after she gives me the updates on things, Dad will jump in on the conversation, and we'll do FaceTime and whatever, at least weekly. Right. And I'm trying to, my daughter's getting married in June, and it makes no sense for him to come to the wedding. It's true. He hasn't been on a plane in decades.
I think you were relieved to hear.
And she was. I know his wife was very relieved. So that, she was assuming they were going to come. She was trying to figure out the logistics. He hasn't been on a plane. He's very tall, 6'4", and sitting for long periods of time is uncomfortable. So it's going to have to be first class. Coming out of Baltimore Airport. There was no direct flight, so she would have to be navigating with him through an airport, and just working through all the logistics, let alone the exorbitant expense of flying across the country to a remote area in Tahoe, where the wedding is outdoors on uneven ground.
Right.
Would require her not only to land, but then to rent a car, and it would have to be a big enough car he could fit in. She went through it. It was layers and layers, and she was willing to do it. God love her. And as I just thought about it, I'm like, I would be worried about him the entire time. And that would also take away from my ability to focus on the wedding and the joy of it with my daughter. And so selfishly, I said to Donna, how about we come visit you a couple weeks, maybe a couple months after the wedding. It'll be my daughter, her husband, and myself, and we'll spend a couple days here. Oh my gosh, you could see the relief in the FaceTime coming off. She's like, really? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I think that's just going to be a much better way to do it. But I mean, I had to tell my dad, don't come to your granddaughter's wedding.
Right.
It's just,
and it's going to be, I mean, as sad as it is that he can't make it, it's going to be a relief to you, because otherwise you would just be worried about him the whole time.
I'm already going to have to just worry about my mom, and because she'll want to wear some stylish shoes, and it's like, this is not a stylish shoe kind of wedding.
Yes, even you have 2 pairs, right? You have flats.
I've got flats
and
all over the place. Yeah, I don't want any thorns in my toes.
Yeah.
But that brings up another thing too that I recently experienced. So, I've been fortunate, like I said, that my dad's wife is considerably younger than him, about I think almost a decade younger than him. Is that terrible? I don't know that exactly. But she's got all of her faculties, and she's in good shape, and she's bearing the brunt of a lot of things that I would have to be bearing if I was there. And I sort of take for granted, where she's at in her own life, because, I mean, as your parents get older, even their younger, more spry partners are also getting older. And
right.
The weirdest thing happened recently that drove that home, and it was, a simple text exchange. So at Christmas, we took some pictures, my family and I, at a local winery. And my dad loves physical prints, the whole send him on the little iPad frame or whatever. He wants a physical print that he can put on his refrigerator with magnets he's had since, the dawn of time. So I'm like, I'm going to get these printed, had them printed on really nice pearl paper of our whole family. So me and the 2 kids. And I sent them to them. And she texts me. She's like, I got the pictures. Thank you so much. Question, who is that standing with you and Ed? And I'm like, what is she talking about? And then I'm like, maybe the picture I send, what pictures did I send? And so I'm like, Jonna, can you describe, the picture? I put them in the physical envelope and all, but I'm like, did I screw something up? Because why is she asking this question? Because she's, recently in the last 3 years seen at least one of my kids. And she's like, no, is that like Brett's sister or someone? I'm confused. So my response to the text was, Zach and Miranda, ! Can you believe it? That was my response to her, telling her, it's Zach and Miranda in the picture. Can you believe it? Like, look, they're adults now. She took that to be that I had mistakenly texted her, that I was disgusted with her not knowing who was in the picture, and that text was meant for Zach and Miranda.
So she totally misunderstood.
Totally misunderstood it. And for like 4 days, she said she thought about it. She was losing sleep. She thought her and I had finally come to a place where we had a good relationship, because we didn't always have a good relationship. And she picked up the phone on Monday and called me all in distress about it. And it took me like 5 minutes to unravel what the heck was happening. That she took my answer as not the answer for who's in the picture, but that as if I had mistakenly texted someone else. So after about a 20-minute conversation unraveling that, it was quite the to-do. And I look back on it and I'm like, okay, my bad grammar in texting probably led to this, similar to the whole kind of famous grammar thing of let's eat grandma versus let's eat, grandma. Would have made a big difference in the text. So watch
your text.
Watch your text.
Well, we found this in our family.
Don't.
Yeah, we found this in our family. And when I say old people, I mean my siblings. I'm the youngest of 7. My oldest brother is 10 years older than me. And 65, 66, not that old, but some ways it is. They're the technology. I mean, we're technology noobs, considering how long technology has been around as well. And we do that kind of things like that. And anybody even older than us is like, it's the same kind of thing. They do not, technology can get lost.
Yes.
Is my point. And I do have
sentiments get lost in texting.
And my brother is very anti-texting. We get very heated arguments sometimes between the sibs when somebody is texting, and it's misunderstood due to grammar and punctuation, and you have to be really careful with that. I think with anybody, but especially with your parents, your siblings, anybody older.
Even amongst our friend group.
Yeah, that's true.
We've recently had some texting mishaps there. So the way I kind of resolved it with my dad's wife is, we'll use texting for like the quick updates on stuff, but really, like, that would have been a question if she had asked me that on the phone when we have our weekly calls. It would have just been resolved in an instant. So instead of her losing sleep about it, and I just have to be more mindful. I can't give the short quips in text. I've got to take the time. Should have used a complete sentence and said, that's Zach and Miranda in the picture. Can you believe how big an adult don't even look like how you remember them?
Right.
That right there would have
solved
everything instead of my very short quips.
Well, how many times have you gotten a text from somebody, even with you sometimes, it's like, not going to make it to pickleball or whatever. And you send just, okay. Yeah. And I take that as like, okay, like you're pissed at me. And I'm sure it's just like, okay. But like you just don't, there is no emotion behind texting. So it can be very challenging.
And even like with emojis and things like that. No, when I'm truly pissed is when I say something fine. Since I was a little kid.
I think I've gotten fine too.
Fine is my word.
I may have gotten a fine or two out of you.
Fine is not fine. But we find it too with our friends. We've recently had with our book club and such group, and one of the issues was when you have different platforms on your phones too. You have Android, you have iPhone, and how text strings work. In iPhone, you can create groups.
We've just transitioned into dealing with aging friends.
Yes, yes, we have. And the issue with that and text chains getting deviated from, and then people feeling excluded, and then they get hurt about feeling excluded. And we tried to I tried to, after the one friend who was excluded says, can't you come up with something, Dylan? I'm one of the more techie people in our group. I love toys, I love apps, I'm just okay. And I work in a corporate environment, so all right, tell me a problem, I'll try to solve it. And I came up with an app called Slack, which is very commonly used in business and personal environment, that enables you to have groups of people and subgroups. And it doesn't matter what type of phone you're on and such. Thinking this was this great solution, super easy to use. And super easy to sign up, no separate password thing. Anyway, wow, was I wrong?
Yeah, and admittedly,
Elle was a resistor at the beginning.
Well, when she first sent it, I'm not phone smart. I'm computer smart. You give me a program on a computer. Mm-hmm. I'm a graphic designer. I can usually figure things out. I'm kind of a phone idiot. I don't know why. I'm on a Mac all day long, and yet I have a Droid phone because I'm used to it, and that's what I've always used. And when I get an iPhone in my hand, I just feel like I have no idea how to run this thing. So when she first suggested this, I was like, I don't want to learn another app. Ugh. And then I just downloaded it. I was like, all right, I'll indulge. Why not? Let's see. If I can do it very easily, I'll make it work. And it was super easy to work, super easy to download, very, just intuitive.
And organize it. We were getting these text strings. So it'd be, this is their group of 13 people in the text string, and then someone would chime in with, hey, does anyone know a good plumber? And then this thread would go 50 deep. And then when you tried to figure out something like, where is book club and what time is it at, you'd be scrolling through
a million texts,
let alone the whole issue of the people with Android and the messages splintering off.
I don't know if everybody is aware, but if you are on an iPhone and you text a photo to someone else on Android in a group text, we will not get it. There is some weird hang up, sometimes even just regular, not even in a group.
Yeah.
Like sometimes just photos between Androids and iPhones do not talk
And then
well.
the other thing that happened in our initial downhill example was, I think the Android person responded and then it splintered off a whole nother thread.
It does that to me every time.
So that everyone else was seeing this isolated response going, what is she responding to?
Right.
Because it didn't marry back up with the original text.
And for the longest time, this is a new thing that keeps happening on my Droid phone, is it splits off the independent, whoever's texted the group, it splits off, or when I'm responding to them, it splits them off individually. I'm not sure how that works, but that's a new thing.
It gets
that's
to be
quite
clustered.
annoying. And yes, it is a cluster. And
So yeah, heated discussion at the tail end of one of our meetings about people.
I stormed out.
Yeah, not wanting
Call
to
me
adopt a
mature.
new and interesting enough, the teacher in our group said the very sentence that Elle said was, "I don't want to learn another thing."
Right.
And I have to admit, I sideways glanced her like, I can't
Really?
believe that came out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And there was, some people that said, well, if this is how we're going to communicate, I'm quitting. I mean, there were some battle lines drawn over this. And I had to get over feeling attacked because I'm like, I'm just trying a solution here. I didn't say everyone has to use this because the one individual was like, I can't believe you're forcing this on us. I'm like, whoa, time out.
Yeah,
Not
this
forcing.
was just trying. Why don't we try
Suggesting
this?
a solution to a problem.
Right, right.
But as is typical with people like myself who are type A, oftentimes suggesting something.
I wouldn't call you type A.
Oftentimes a suggestion from me comes across as a little bit like, this is our
maybe
way
a
to
B
highway.
plus.
A B plus.
I wouldn't call you totally type A.
I'd like to think I can temper it, and certainly like the role I have to play in my work life versus how I am in my personal life. But it got a little messy. I would say it's still a little messy. However, the interesting thing I find is everyone eventually did try it. And I think I've gotten comments on the side from people saying, wow, this is good. Because like I was saying before, we'd have these text chains with a million different topics. So-and-so has a concert this week. This is that. This is that. It got so hard to figure, and you would miss things because a lot of times you'll put it on silent because you're like, I can't handle all the bings coming at me.
Especially you and I who work and we have our watches
put it
on our
silent
hand.
and you miss it.
Right.
So
It's
this
buzzing in
created
your
little
hand.
groups.
I mean, it gets to the point where I feel like I'm getting a massage on my wrist because the phone is going off over and over and over
So
again.
now we have, those of you that went to the sourdough class, here's the thread for sourdough. Those of you are going to book club, here's the book club thread. Those of you that are playing, in the card group, here's the card group thread. Oh, you have a great shopping site or a coupon you want to share with us? Here's the shopping site coupon. Oh, you need to request. What?
Oh, we got a phone.
See, my phone heard
Hey,
me
we're
talking.
supposed to silence her phone.
I did. Look, it's on silent.
What the heck?
But because I think Siri thought I needed to hear some music.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Well,
Speaking of, I'm really good with technology.
It's so funny.
But so I think people are adopting the Slack. I'm not sponsored by Slack in any way, but if you too also suffer from that, whether it's a family thread, highly suggest you look into it. The free version is more than adequate. The business version that you pay a
Probably
little bit
too
for,
much.
way too much. It's to save threads for archiving and legal purposes and yada, yada, yada. But right now I think we have 8 different threads in our group, and it compartmentalizes it. It doesn't bing at you. It just indicates on your homepage, hey, you got something. So if you check it once a day versus what was happening before was every response would result in something. So
Right.
as much flack as I took for Slack,
You took a lot of flack for Slack.
I think that we're gonna transition to it. We'll
Okay.
see. We'll see if
we'll
the,
see how
if
it
the
goes.
people who threaten to quit or will quit over it.
Yeah. So, did we cover everything about
I think, yeah.
Aging parents?
Aging parents, aging friends.
aging parents? Exhausts me.
Yeah.
It ages me to talk about aging parents. This was a long 5 days. And,
Not a vacation.
Not a vacation. Although I did have we had some really lovely moments with my siblings. My sister and I, we were at an Airbnb and that had a pool. It was really nice. And my sister at one point walks into the garage, and the acoustics in this garage were like super echoey. And she calls me out there and she starts singing Four Non Blondes. What's the name of the song?
The song that's living rent-free in Elle's mind right now.
Hey, yeah. Sorry about my
Did
voice.
we ever figure out what the actual title of that song is?
What is the name of that song? I said, hey, I think
Yeah,
is what
it
the
might-
what's going on?
What's going on?
I'm pretty sure that's the name of that one. Anyway, so that has been living totally rent-free in my head for all the way back on the airplane and everything else. Yeah, and we had some lovely moments. We did talk about the funeral arrangements. We talked about lots of stuff, how we're going to handle the money situation, and I think we came to agreements on things. It was just in some ways really fun. They were playing volleyball in the pool on a rainy night. It rained. We had horrible weather, but yeah, the trip was good. I need a vacation from my vacation.
Yeah, vacation. Well, we had Spa Day on Friday. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah, Spa Day coming up.
So a song that's been living rent-free in my head just randomly, I think it came through on the playlist, which is kind of ironic given that we haven't had the sun. Which
Is it Ironic by Alanis Morissette?
No.
Okay.
Soak Up the Sun by Sheryl Crow, since we haven't been able to soak up the sun here in a little while. But my favorite line from that song, which I almost feel like needs to just be a sticker on the wall, it's not having what you want, it's wanting what you got.
Yeah, that's a great line from that song.
I think that like almost every day, if you were to have that as your affirmation, you would live with a little more gratitude. Because
that is a good one.
Especially when things are going, not the way you want, being able to just get that little bit of gratitude. Like we were talking about the aging parents thing's tough, but the fact that we have family support and that we have financial support to be able to weather that, I couldn't even imagine if those elements weren't there.
And I think being grateful, that for every day you do have with your parents, take advantage, hug them, tell them that you love them. And
my mom is still ghosting me, by the way.
Well, not you, of course.
So I'm gonna probably have to do.
You might want to tell her that you love her, but really, it's amazing how fast time flies. Tell your kids you love them. You never know what can happen to anybody.
Man, Zach, I loved you.
Aw, there you go. I think it's important to say those things to each other, and I love you, man.
Yeah. So our drink of the show that we've actually been enjoying while we're doing this is a pretty simple one, but going along our old theme, we came up with The Old Man and the Seagrams. And this comes from my funny little kitschy cocktail books. But this is just simply 2 ounces of whiskey and a 12-ounce can of Sprite. Stir that together. Don't shake it because it's carbonated. Pour it in a glass. Garnish with a kumquat. Old Man and the Seagrams.
Delicious.
I love a play on words.
Always. And the soup of the day, the soup du jour.
Yep. Family recipe.
Was, a family recipe. I have no idea where she got it, but my Aunt Duffy brought with her a whole pot.
Where did she come from? That she had
Alabama to Florida. Alabama, 8-hour drive by herself with enough soup to feed.
Oh my gosh! If she had spilled in the car, you've seen people on the internet show the pictures of tragic soup spilling in the car.
Yeah, she brought all sorts of snacks. It was like having mom there, except my mom never would have made soup. My mom did not cook. That was not a dig. She really did not cook. I kind of take after her. Anyway, it's a vegetarian black bean. So I'm not sure if it was totally vegetarian.
So did she make it vegetarian for you, or was it always a family recipe as vegetarian?
I think she may have made it vegetarian for me. It might have at one point
even tell, right?
Probably had bacon in it. And I think she knew that I didn't dig on the swine. Yeah. And so she kept the bacon out. But it was delicious regardless. And we had bread with it and cheese and crackers. And it was wonderful.
When you check out our Instagram, you can see the recipe for that black bean soup.
Yes.
And last but not least, we always like to recommend a book. And one of the books that we read a couple of months ago was a really heartwarming one.
True story.
Called West with Giraffes by Linda Rutledge.
I hope they make this into a movie. Every book that we recommend, I would love to see as a movie pretty much, but this one was amazing.
Make it a movie, but have the author as part of the team. When they do that, like we love the series, even though they changed a lot of things, Lessons in Chemistry, having the author
I still haven't seen it.
Be there really helps. I mean, they missed some of the things. They altered some of the characters to be a little more current, let's just call it that.
PC.
Yes, PC, but West with Giraffes, would love to see a movie, as well as the one we had previously recommended.
And basically, it's a true story. Yeah. And for us, it was a little also kind of cool because it's a true story of how they brought giraffes that were brought in from Africa on a ship, and then they drove them across the country to the San Diego Zoo.
Our zoo here that we love.
And so just an amazing story of these people that did this. And I'm sure it was...
in the 20s, mind you.
So in the 20s.
Having to navigate this with equipment you don't have.
Right.
They didn't have cover enclosures and what they had to do.
They didn't have freeways. There was no...
Didn't want to give away too much. But it's a heartwarming story, and you'll feel good after reading it.
Yeah, it's a great read.
All right.
Well...
So, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Elle.
And we both love soup.